Hey, what's up? This is Ron K. Armstrong, filmmaker extraordinaire, here with another video for you. In this video, I want to talk about, or I want to review, Spike Lee's new film, The Five Bloods. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. So let's get into this new film by Spike Lee that is available on Netflix. Of course, we all are still caught up in COVID-19, so a lot of the studios and directors and filmmakers are releasing their films on streaming, which is really good because you get to catch some quality films in the comfort of your own home. And Five Bloods is one of them, or The Five Bloods. Now, this film is really about five Black Vietnam soldiers that return to Vietnam to get the remains of their squad leader's remains. His name is Norm. And in the process, they're also searching for some gold, some treasure, which I think the gold amounts to around 17 million. And what you're doing is you are traveling to Vietnam after, this is post the Vietnam War, and you get an idea of what's happened there. What is it like there? What are the opinions of Americans? What are their opinions of Black people? And you also exploring the relationship of these five older men. And, one of the interesting characters that I really like is Delroy Lindo. He's in the film and he has a son. And I really like his relationship with his son. But let me just go over the cast real quick. You have Delroy Lindo, Jonathan Myers, Clark Peters, Norm Lewis, Isaiah Whitlock. And then there is a woman that she's like half Vietnamese and half French white, Elaine Terry. I can't pronounce her name, sorry. But she's in there as well. So we actually follow these soldiers as they're tracking for the gold and the remains, as I said, of their squad leader, Norm, who is played by T'Challa, Black Panther, interesting. And this is a really great scene here. I wanted to kind of show this really quick. All right, let's check this out. This is actually a scene of when they're meeting together to plan what they're going to do. And Spike had mentioned like one of the inspirations for this film was Apocalypse Now. So let's check this out real quick.
Ma'am?
Yes, sir?
Can you please make sure that all 4 rooms...
Let me just speed this up here and get to the good stuff here.
Next car, the biggest custom car dealership in the world, right? Keep your money, man.
I see your hair's still hard as hell.
It's not my song, some James.
You crazy.
Now, really, for some reason, I like that shot. And I like that scene where they're getting together and they're partying and they talk about how they're going to, if they need a tour guide or not, how they're going to find this gold. And it's really good because each one of these characters, you really explore who they are, their backstory, and their relationship to one another and back in the homeland, America. Now, let me see. Here's some of the footage that you can see, which is the one thing that I want to let you know, because it is kind of confusing, is that when they cut to the flashbacks of them back in Vietnam during the war, Spike Lee doesn't use younger versions of the actors or younger versions of the characters. They stay their same age, but it is meant to be back in the Vietnam War. So you're looking at them as old men or older men. But you have to look at it in a different way towards, like, look at it through the lens of, hey, they're supposed to be their younger selves. And this is a scene with the platoon leader or squad leader, Norm here. So this, and it has a lot of really great action sequences.
Many brothers who made squad leader. Man was using bloods for camp fodder. White boys who stayed in college, they dodged that shit. They put our poor black asses on the front line, killing us off like flies. Storman earned his.
Now, the part I meant to really get into was Delroy Lindo's relationship with his son in the film. But the real important thing is his relationship to the squad leader, Norm. And there's some surprises there. I won't spoil it for you. And it's a really good scene, deep scene that Spike developed there. And let me see if I can get to it a bit here. Well,
You Vietnam officer. Yeah. Where are your official badges?
okay. Anyway, so I'm jumping all over the place.
Official
Sorry about that. But along the way in their journey to find this gold, they do find the gold, but they also have to deal with the Viet Cong, who are still bitter and angry about the war and want to take the gold from them. So we have that whole interaction there. Now, let me explain how this film is. It's very interesting the way it's set up. If you are a Spike Lee fan, you'll love this film. And I'm a Spike Lee fan, so obviously I love the film. I recommend it because it has a lot of tropes in there. Spike Lee talks about being pigeon-toed. They mention Mookie, you know, and along this journey, it's a lot of characters spill, or there is dialogue a lot about Black history and how that relates to the Vietnam War. That's a lot of stuff that was also contemporary, such as opiate addiction. They handle that in the film. Make America Great, Trump. They deal with that in the film as well. So there's just a lot of things in here that, like I said, if you're a big Spike Lee fan, you'll love this because he peppers it with all of that Black history, contemporary stuff, Black Lives Matter, all that's in here. It's all thrown in here. If you're not a Spike Lee fan, you may feel like this is exposition heavy and you don't get it. There is one scene that I thought was maybe a little too much, where one of the characters, I forgot his name, went to the other blood and said, let's do the blood shake. And they did this really long handshake. And it actually was Delroy Lindo's son. And it was just a really involved handshake. And you were like, okay, what's the purpose of this? You know, but that's a kind of Spike Lee trope. So if you're not a big fan of Spike, you may wonder, why are we dealing so much with these little tropes here? There's a great monologue that Delroy Lindo has in the film. It's really excellent. You'll love it. And let me see what else is here. He steals the show. You know, there's no doubt that Delroy steals the show. He's a very powerful actor. And you're just getting a quality film here. You're getting something really, really special, you know? So I, as a Spike Lee fan, had to see this film. I wanted to see this film, and it delivered for me. I loved it. But my only concern is, if you're not a fan of Spike Lee, are you going to get it? Are you going to understand it? Are you going to understand all the Black history references? And there are a lot. Are you going to understand the contemporary current events that are peppered throughout the entire film? There's a lot of that. Throwing in Black Lives Matter, Trump, a bunch of stuff. Like I said, the opioid addiction thing, all of that. So, you know, and I think sometimes that it's not weaved in the narrative in the best way, because it kind of takes you out of the film when you're dealing with these contemporary issues. And you're like, oh, okay, so we're talking about Make America Great. All right, gotcha. Okay, now we're back in the film, you know? But I understand that, because that's how Spike Lee works. But I'm afraid of the people jarred by that, you know, and taken aback and say, I couldn't follow this because we were dealing, when we got into the narrative, we took these detours into Black history, current affairs, and Black Lives Matter, and this and that and da. So, you know, now I'm not going to just say that I love this film 100%. There are some issues I have with this film, and those issues pertain to the strength of the film. The actual relationship between Delroy Lindo and his son in this film, I thought was awesome. But then suddenly it was disrupted. It didn't go anywhere. And I'm saying, here you have this great relationship between father and son in Vietnam, searching for gold, looking for the body, the remains of his squad leader, and him teaching his son about life and what it was like to be a soldier back then. And then suddenly Delroy leaves him. I'm not going to tell you the details, but he just leaves his son and goes his own business. And I'm like, okay, what happened there? You know, why didn't we explore more of that relationship? It was really, really good. And there is some good action sequences in the film, some really good action sequences. At first, when I was watching it in the very beginning, I kind of got the idea that you can tell this was done on a limited budget, but as it got more involved, I think it became more sophisticated in how it treated things, specifically action sequences. And when you became invested in the characters, then you really, really liked it. And there's some gore. There's some shocking scenes in the film, you know? So overall, I would highly recommend you checking it out on Netflix. If you are a Spike Lee fan, definitely check it out. One of his best films. If you're not a Spike Lee fan, still check it out. It's a good film. All right. You just have to follow it. Takes you on a journey, a great journey. Some really good messages there, very important messages. And I don't know. I don't know if I can say anything else. But you know, the only other film that kind of came close to this was when Spike Lee did Miracle at St. Anna, which I thought I liked that film. In fact, I met Spike and we talked about that film, and I told him how I did like it. And I think this is that film it seems like it had a bigger budget than this film. I'm not really sure what this budget was. I think it specifically was made for Netflix, and Miracle at St. Anna was made for theatrical distribution. So you can tell it had a bigger budget. But this film, I think, is better than that film. But in doing Miracle at St. Anna, Spike Lee, I think maybe he learned a lot, and those key learnings went into this film. And you really, really, I can't say enough. You get into the characters. I think the strength of the film is the characters. You like them because they're all very, very, the Bloods are all distinct and very different. And there's a lot of conflict between them. It's organic. You buy it, you know, and you want to see what happens to each one of them. You know, like I really like, I mean, if I met these individuals on the street or I met them in a bar, I would really want to get to know them. I would want to hear their stories. I would want to, these are OGs. I want to learn from them, you know? And the fact of the matter is that Spike Lee explores the truth about the Vietnam War, and meaning that they, you know, we Black men were drafted in a great percentage into the war. In a war that when we came back here to this country didn't treat us right. And yet we fought and bled for the country. You know what I mean? So that question comes up in the film, as well as how the Vietnamese, how they feel about us now. You know, like what is their perception of us, you know? And Delroy Lindo's character actually has this conversation with one of the Vietnamese soldiers, and he says, listen, you know, we both did things during that war that we're not proud of, you know, but we have to look at it in terms of, you know, our governments were at war and not us on a personal level. You know, I'm paraphrasing in a way. So, but in that, I think it's an important message. He says a lot of good stuff, Delroy Lindo's character. So he's just a damn good actor, put it that way. All right. He's a good actor, and Spike was a smart director to put him in this film and give him such an important role. So that's all I have to say. Check out The Five Bloods by Spike Lee. This is filmmaker Ron K. Armstrong. Until my next film, or until my next video, keep making films.